because I kind of have a little bit of a theme song now for our Donbass with Tejas videos.
The harmonica? Or?
Yeah, yeah. And I'll find a link for
Was that you playing?
Does that be good? You can use it too, man. And actually, I mean, I'm real happy. It's by a band called Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop isn't a band, it's an anime series.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you not heard of this?
No.
I dressed up as the protagonist of the show, Skype, for Halloween.
Really?
Yeah. It's a sci-fi, sci-fi thrillerish kind. It's about these bounty hunters who travel together on, well, going around the galaxy finding people to catch, and they make a living like that. And the story's always different each episode, but it just gets progressively darker and darker and darker. It starts off light-hearted, and I'm probably not explaining it very well, but look it up.
No, dude. I've never really played video games. I mean, to be honest, I've never played one. But I've had some friends that were into them pretty hard, and I can see the attraction to it. You know, and if I wasn't so busy doing real shit, I'd probably get into it too.
There's a stereo.
Me, fun. I like to play music.
There's a stereotype about Eastern Europeans in a game called Counter-Strike.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because everyone who plays it is Russian. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Suka Blatt, Rush B is the phrase that people like to use.
Mm-hmm.
We rush B, don't you know, when we're playing CSGO.
Cool.
I'm going to use that as a soundbite. Okay, so on the topic of the United States elections, we're going to talk about third parties.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Jill Stein of the Greens and Gary Johnson of the Libertarians?
Of course. Actually, I voted for Ron Paul for president on the Libertarian Party ticket back in 1988. At that time, I agreed pretty much with the social platform of the Libertarian Party, but basically their economic platform is a recipe for fascism. I mean, basically economic anarcho-capitalism is an insane idea. I mean, basically the idea behind that would be that if somebody ends up owning all the water in the world, he can sell it for $1 million a glass. And if you don't want to pay $1 million, or you can't pay $1 million, then you die of thirst. And so and there's a lot of real idiots in the Libertarian Party too. People that don't know what they're talking about but won't shut up. And so
I can't remember his name, but at the Libertarian Party internal candidates, when they were choosing who they were going to put forward for president, there was this one candidate who stripped naked on stage into his underwear and exposing his Iron Cross tattoo. He started dancing on the stage for about 2-3 minutes until security locked him off. And people were coming up to the stage and putting money in his underwear. Did you ever hear of that?
I didn't hear about that, but it doesn't surprise me.
And you were talking about how nuts they were. That's the first thing
Party would consider
that came up.
Somebody like that as a potential candidate for president of the United States.
He didn't get it in the end.
Oh, of course, of course.
Of course.
But the Green Party, I take them. I have a lot more respect for the Green Party than I do the Libertarian Party. But the problem with the Green Party, the only candidate that I ever really took seriously was Ralph Nader, who I consider to be one of the great political minds of modern American history. I pretty much agree with everything that he has said. But the Green Party was not worthy of him, and and when they lost him, they lost me and my respect for them as well. The Green Party, it's kind of just, it's the flip side of the Libertarian Party coin. And, neither of them is either correct enough, in my opinion, or serious enough to ever make any real difference there. I mean, when Nader ran in 2000, I voted for him. That was the last time I voted. He got about 2% of the vote that year in the United States. So to me, that just told me that there's only 2% of the people in the United States that are really qualified to have a political opinion. And unfortunately, there's other parties. The Socialist Workers' Party, I've worked with them before. They're another coffee shop debating society. The Occupy Wall Street movement, was very poorly organized, and I knew it was going to fizzle, from the first day, although I was there too on the first day. The communist parties in the United States, probably not unlike the communist parties in Great Britain. In the United States, there's probably half a dozen different communist parties, and they seem to spend more time squabbling amongst each other than they do, trying to defeat the real enemy. And so it's, things are going to have to get so bad that people get out in the streets and do more than talk or sing "We Shall Overcome" or carry a sign or, write something on Facebook. And unfortunately, I think things are going to get way worse than that real quick, and probably not in the not too distant future.
All right. What was the next topic?
Let me see what else I got here.
I apologize if I'm making you do all the work.
Dude, no problem. No problem. You're doing, just remember you said that when you're doing the next 48 hours of editing. Dude, I have great respect for dudes that can do editing and stuff. And I know I've made a few videos of myself in my time, and I know exactly the skill and work that's required. Before I ever knew who they were, I was in an independent record store up in Chicago, and they were playing that song Mao Zedong Says, and I was listening to it in the background. They were playing it in the record store, and I was listening to it, and I thought to myself at first, oh, here's just some more posers just, using the, the name of Mao Zedong and communist axioms, but then I listened to it and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty interesting. And so I asked this chick that worked at the record store, and she's like, yeah, my cousin knows these guys. They're from England, and they're really cool. And so I bought, I think it was their first big album, Cold Harbor Lane, Exile on Cold Harbor Lane. And they've got a lot of different great songs, dude, really. And the way they mix, acid house and country and gospel and rock and roll and blues together, I really like them. They're one of my favorite bands right now.
Have you heard of an American called Marcel Cartier?
Marcia?
Marcel, M-A-R-C-E-L.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, he was a Russia Today reporter. He's also a hip-hop artist, and he was also in Ukraine in 2014. While he was working for Russia Today, he met right sector members, and he had to hide the fact that he was working for Russia Today so they wouldn't kill him. And he was interviewing them, and the moment came when he had to shake hands with them. and there's a big alarm bells going off in his head. I'm going to lose so much street cred if I shake this guy's hand. But he couldn't let them figure out he was an RT reporter. That was a funny story. He's been to Cuba. He's also been to North Korea. He wrote a travel blog for that, in which he talks all about his experience of how he was there and dispelling common myths. But I'm going to show you some of his music, because he had one song called 27 Million. It was about, well...
The Russian Great Patriotic War.
Yeah, have you heard the song before?
No, I don't think I have. Dude, shoot me a link.
Okay, I helped to make a music video from it on my channel. I'm going to play it now if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Long live anti-fascist solidarity.
By the way, I spent a month in Cuba myself back in '95.
Oh, good. I'm going to play the song now.
Okay.
Can you hear okay?
Can't hear anything.
No, I mean, when I was playing it, was it okay?
I haven't heard any music, bro. I can hear your voice.
Alright, I'm going to just send it to you in Skype. And then you can play it
I'll
yourself.
check it out. He sounds like my kind of guy, man.
Yeah. He's made songs, you know, he makes songs about a revolution, but when you listen to the song, you learn about it. So, you know, he'll sing about, of course, 27 million, a very short history of the war against Germany and the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm. Dude, have you seen the movie Come and See?
Common City?
No, Come and See.
Come and See. Nope, never heard of it.
It's the greatest war movie of all time. It's about a kid in Belarusia that joins the partisans. It's like one week in the life of this 15-year-old kid, dude. It's
yes, I have heard of it. I saw a GIF online of they were mowing down the guys in the lake with the hip-firing the machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I haven't watched the film. I will after this.
It's
if you recommend it.
I highly recommend it. In fact, at one place when I went back to my old position in Spartak, when I went back there, they had like gotten electricity, and they even had a TV with a DVD player, and we watched it. We watched it there. Whenever new volunteers from the West come here, I make them watch it.
So most of the volunteers that come from abroad, they keep their identities hidden, don't they?
Most of them, the smart ones do, because it's a one-way fucking trip if you don't, dude. The only way I'm going back to the United States is driving a T-72. And I mean, if you come here to just do, you know, correspondent work or human aid work, they won't bust you. Like Graham Phillips, you know. He's been here, he's been back to the UK a few times, but and this is a link to here's the first half of the movie. I think it's in 3 sections, but from there on Dailymotion you can find it. Dude, it's an intense movie, dude. And it truly shows what fascism is and what they really did here.
I'll see it, I'll have a look. Thanks for showing that.
Sure. But, yeah, you know, but then, okay, so Graham, because he's never, you know, like actually, you know, done any shooting at the front, hasn't been fucked with so far, you know, when he goes back to England. If people want to help the people of Donbass who are defending the world against fascist imperialism, the ways they can help, I mean, certainly you can come here and be a volunteer There's humanitarian aid work. There's journalists. A very excellent journalist that I recently met has the site Vox Populi Evo. It's on YouTube and LiveLeak. She comes here on her own money. She used to be a very successful businesswoman in Western Europe.
What was her name again?
Vox Populi Evo.
Her name is Evo.
It's a VOX,
Yeah.
EVO. But Vox Populi Evo is a great information source. This woman comes here, spends her own money with her own equipment, and she goes to some very, very, very dangerous frontline positions. She's as brave as any soldier I've ever met. Really smart, makes excellent videos, mostly in Russian, but with English subtitles, so people from the West can understand what's going on here.
Which that brings me to another question: was English-speaking journalists, apart from you and Graham Phillips, is there anybody else which I could about?
There's Patrick Lancaster, who used to be Graham Phillips' cameraman. He does humanitarian aid work here now. He's a good guy. He's from the States. But, people, can come from, Europe or UK or the United States, can come here as journalists or as humanitarian aid volunteers, and that's not illegal. They won't get busted for that when they go back. If you come here and volunteer for the Novorussian Army, first of all, if you don't speak Russian and you don't have prior military experience, it's very slim chances that you will get a position. It's very tough in the Novorussian Army, and they are much, much more selective on who they allow to enlist now than when they were when I came in December 2014. It's really gone from a volunteer militia to a professional army. We've taken a lot of trophy equipment, tanks and BMPs and stuff from UCROPs that we've defeated in battle.
I saw a footage online. I think it was Motorola's men. They stole a tank. Did you see this video?
Yeah.
And they were
Great Battalion.
They were driving away in this tank that they'd stolen from the Ukrainian army. And what was the phrase that they shouted? The celebratory phrase?
I don't recall.
Oh, okay. What comes to mind?
Trophy, is Praznikum or trophy.
Something along those lines, yes. The smiles on their faces, though. Like they just robbed a bank.
Well, and that's really, the way, hopefully, that we'll be able to win this war is with as little violence and destruction as possible. I mean, we really do not want to kill the young conscripts that are forced by the Ukrainian army to come to the front. And a lot of them don't want to kill us. So as far as the guys that don't want to be here and don't want to fight, we just suggest that they surrender. We'll treat them humanely, and we will, either, give them a place here or let them go home if they want, although life is better here than it is in Western Ukraine these days. As for Pravy Sector, Azov Battalion, the Nazis, and also as for the Western mercenaries, those are murderers, those are war criminals, and they would probably be better off dying before being captured, because because we treat them the way that they treat us, and that, or we don't treat them as bad as they treat us. I have seen videos of Pravy Sector torturing prisoners, branding with fire, swastikas into prisoners' skin. I've seen a video of them crucifying a prisoner and then setting him on fire while he was still alive. I've seen a video of them hanging a prisoner and his pregnant wife. You know, these are the kind of atrocities that these right-wing Nazi battalions do, and so we don't treat them as bad as that, but you know, we don't take a lot of them prisoner.
Again, for the people who are watching this but aren't familiar with who Right Sector are, can you explain to us?
Yes, they are criminals and psychopaths. They are genuine Heil Hitler Nazis, and you know, they are psychopaths that volunteer to rape and murder and rob and torture civilians and any prisoners that they catch. They are, I mean, they are the European version of ISIS.
And their flag and their organisation, Pravy Sector, aka Right Sector, are based on an organisation called the OUNB, which was a fascist organisation within Ukraine that sabotaged the Soviet Union on behalf of Nazi Germany and worked with the Germans, collaborated with them to fight against communists, Jews and Polish people, and was funded by Germany. They had skirmishes with Germany at the end of the war, but that was only an opportunist move so they could take Ukraine once both armies were weak. Ideologically, they're almost identical to the Nazis, except they're loyal to a different nationality.
Right. They are. I mean, they are in you know, all technical ways. They're the same as Nazis. Although it's literally a historical fact that they committed more and worse atrocities in the areas they operated in Poland and Ukraine, Belarusia, than even the German Nazis did. And there's, you know, I mean, the historical record of that is without dispute. It is, you know, only a fool or a liar would dispute that fact, that the Bandera, OUN-B guys were every bit as bad and worse than the German Nazis, the Einsatzgruppen, who came here to wipe out civilians.
Talking about fools and liars, we're going to talk about the BBC. They did a report on a show called Newsnight, where they went to Ukraine during the Maidan protests when the coup was just beginning, and they showed people just how bad it was. They showed the swastikas on the protesters' vests, their bats, the street fighters, the fascist symbols they had, and their slogans. They were showing people just how bad it was. That was before the coup was successful, but in place. About a year ago, so 2015, just a year after the coup was successful, another BBC journalist went to Ukraine and interviewed Azov Battalion, the fascist militias which are currently working for the Ukrainian government. And the attitude was completely different. I mean, there was I fucking kid you not, I'll send you a link. There was a BBC journalist in front of Azov Battalion neo-Nazis with their SS symbols on their badges, visible on the camera, and the BBC journalist says, "This is Azov Battalion. They have been accused of having far-right nationalists within their ranks, and there's like SS Nazi symbols in the background, and they're training with their weapons." And how could he be so blind? Well, he's probably not blind. He's trying to rebrand them.
Sure.
Rebrand fascism. It's cool.
You know, we have the expression in the West, prostitutes.
Prostitutes.
You know, journalistic whores, and that's what he is. And that's, I mean, the BBC is a joke. It is a joke. Western media is a joke. It is not only a lie, but it is a lie that's the opposite of the truth. You know, I mean, everybody sees things a little bit differently, you know. And you can say, oh, you know, there's 50 shades of gray, and I say that it's this shade, and somebody else says it's this shade. When somebody else says, no, that's white, and it's gray that's almost black, then it's then it's the opposite of the truth. And that's literally, I mean, they call the terrorists here, the volunteer, freedom fighters, and they call the people who are defending themselves from Nazi mass murderers terrorists.
Mm-hmm.